Ladakh, a high-altitude desert, suspended between the staggering peaks of the Himalayas and the Karakoram, sitting at the very edge of human endurance. Did you know that in this region, people survive at altitudes where the oxygen levels are nearly 40% lower than at sea level? We are stepping into a geopolitical chessboard, a spiritual fortress, and a land where the silence of the mountains speaks louder than the roar of modern life. It is a territory defined by 3 nuclear powers, yet its heart remains anchored in ancient traditions and a landscape that looks like the surface of the moon. Before we venture deep into this land above the clouds, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a journey into the world's most fascinating frontiers. Ladakh emerges as one of the most extreme inhabited regions on Earth, a barren expanse of rock and ice that stretches across the northernmost tip of India. It is a land shaped by the violent collision of tectonic plates, where the Indian subcontinent continues to push against Eurasia, lifting these mountains higher into the stratosphere. To the north lies the Tibet Autonomous Region, to the south the lush valleys of Himachal Pradesh, and to the west the volatile and disputed territories of Gilgit-Baltistan. This is a region that does not merely exist on a map, but rather sits at the brutal crossroads of Asian history and power. The geography of Ladakh is a masterclass in environmental extremes, stretching from the frozen white desert of the Siachen Glacier to the jagged peaks of the Great Himalayas. As the highest plateau in India, the terrain here is defined by its verticality, where mountain passes often exceed 16,000 feet. The climate is dominated by the rain-shadow effect, where the massive walls of the Himalayas block the monsoon clouds from the south. This creates a high-altitude desert, a place of scorched earth and freezing winds where moisture is a rare and precious commodity. Cutting through this skeletal landscape is the Indus River, a vital artery that has sustained life in these mountains for thousands of years. The river carves narrow, fertile gashes into the barren rock, creating valleys like Nubra and Zanskar, where small communities cling to the banks. These oases are the only places where the green of willow trees and barley fields breaks the monotony of the brown and grey mountains. In the winter, these rivers transform into sheets of ice, becoming the only highways for those brave enough to travel through the frozen canyons. Despite the harshness of the environment, Ladakh hides a surreal and haunting beauty that feels almost extraterrestrial. You will find glacial lakes like Pangong Tso, where the water shifts through 1,000 shades of blue beneath a sky that feels close enough to touch. The silence in these high-altitude basins is absolute, broken only by the whistling of the wind through the mountain passes. It is a place where nature does not invite you to stay, but rather challenges you to survive within its magnificent and indifferent embrace. Human presence in this high-altitude desert dates back much further than most people realize, with roots reaching into the Neolithic era. Archaeologists have found rock carvings and stone tools that suggest early nomads were navigating these passes thousands of years ago. These early settlers were the first to recognize Ladakh as a vital bridge, a narrow corridor connecting the riches of the Indian subcontinent with the trade routes of Central Asia. This strategic position meant that Ladakh was never truly isolated, but was instead a melting pot of moving tribes and ideas. By the 1st century of the Common Era, Ladakh fell under the influence of the Kushan Empire, a powerful state that controlled much of northern India and Central Asia. This was a pivotal moment in the region's history, as it brought Ladakh into the orbit of a sophisticated administrative and cultural machine. The Kushans facilitated the movement of goods like silk, spices, and precious stones, turning the high passes into bustling thoroughfares. It was during this time that the foundations of Ladakh's unique cultural synthesis began to take shape. In the 2nd century, a new force arrived that would permanently alter the soul of the region: Buddhism. Spreading from the lush valleys of Kashmir into the high-altitude deserts, the teachings of the Buddha found a fertile ground in the quietude of the mountains. Monastic communities began to form, carving their homes into the cliffs and establishing a spiritual lineage that would last for nearly 2,000 years. This was not just a religious shift, but a social transformation that gave the people a shared identity and a way to navigate the hardships of their environment. Over the following centuries, Ladakh became a cultural vessel, absorbing influences from Tibet to the east and the Persianate world to the west. This fusion created a distinct identity that was neither fully Indian nor fully Tibetan, but something entirely its own. The architecture, the language, and the social structures all reflected this hybridity, born from the necessity of trade and the sanctuary of isolation. It was a region that learned to balance the demands of powerful neighbors while preserving a core of spiritual independence. As the medieval era dawned, Ladakh found itself caught in a relentless tug-of-war between the expanding Tibetan Empire and the various kingdoms of the Indian plains. The mountains were no longer just a trade route. They were a contested frontier where empires sought to secure their borders. In the 10th century, the region emerged as the independent kingdom of Namgyal, founded by a dynasty descended from the kings of Old Tibet. This period marked the beginning of Ladakh as a sovereign political entity, with its own rulers and a growing sense of national pride. The arrival of Islamic missionaries and traders later introduced new beliefs to the region, particularly in the western areas like Kargil. This reshaped the religious landscape, creating a fascinating patchwork of Buddhist and Muslim communities living in close proximity. Unlike many other parts of the world where such shifts led to total displacement, Ladakh managed a degree of coexistence. The mosques and monasteries became the twin pillars of the community, each contributing to the complex social fabric of the high desert. Under the Namgyal dynasty, which rose to power in the late medieval period, Ladakh reached the height of its territorial and military influence. The Namgyal kings were ambitious rulers who expanded their borders and built the iconic Leh Palace, a 9-story structure that still looms over the capital city today. They were forced to become masters of diplomacy, navigating the pressures from Central Asian raiders and the growing power of the Mughal Empire to the south. It was a time of grand fortifications and high-stakes politics, where the survival of the kingdom depended on the strength of its walls and the wisdom of its leaders. Despite the constant threat of invasion and the immense pressure from more powerful neighbors, the Kingdom of Ladakh maintained a fragile independence for centuries. The rulers were experts at playing their enemies against each other, forming alliances that shifted with the political winds. They preserved their culture by investing heavily in the arts and the construction of massive monasteries, which served as both religious centers and defensive strongholds. This era solidified the image of Ladakh as a fortress of the spirit, a place where the flame of tradition burned bright even in the coldest winds. The 19th century brought a radical shift as the British Empire expanded its reach across the Indian subcontinent. Ladakh was eventually absorbed into the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir, ending its run as a sovereign kingdom. This transition brought the region under a new administrative structure, but it also placed it directly in the path of global colonial ambitions. The British were keenly aware of Ladakh's strategic value as a buffer against the Russian Empire to the north, a role that would define its modern history. The partition of India in 1947 was a traumatic turning point that shattered the old trade routes and divided families. Suddenly, the ancient paths to Tibet and Central Asia were severed by new militarized borders that had no regard for history or culture. Ladakh became a flashpoint in the ongoing conflict between India and Pakistan, leading to several high-altitude wars that tested the limits of modern military technology. The silence of the mountains was replaced by the sound of artillery and the constant presence of soldiers. The Sino-Indian War of 1962 and the later Kargil War in 1999 further cemented Ladakh's status as a critical strategic zone. These conflicts forced the Indian government to invest heavily in infrastructure, building roads and airfields in places that were once only accessible by foot or mule. Today, the region is one of the most militarized high-altitude areas in the world, with a permanent military presence that guards the disputed borders of Aksai Chin and the Line of Control. It is a paradox where breathtaking natural beauty exists alongside the cold reality of modern warfare. The modern transformation of Ladakh is a story of economic survival and adaptation in the face of closed borders. For centuries, the economy was built on the Silk Road, with Leh serving as a vital hub for caravans traveling between India and China. When the borders were sealed in the 1960s, that ancient way of life vanished almost overnight. The region was forced to look inward, and for a time, it languished in isolation as a forgotten frontier of the modern world. Everything changed in the 1970s when the region was finally open to international tourism. What was once a secluded military zone became a bucket list destination for travelers seeking untouched landscapes and spiritual enlightenment. The town of Leh transformed from a quiet mountain village into a bustling hub of guest houses, cafes, and trekking agencies. This influx of visitors brought a new wave of prosperity, but it also brought challenges that the fragile ecosystem was not prepared to handle. Today, the weight of tourism is felt in the environmental strain and the increasing scarcity of water. The glaciers that provide the region's only water source are receding at an alarming rate due to climate change, while the demand for water in the hotels of Leh continues to grow. There is a deep concern about the cultural shifts as well, as younger generations move away from traditional agriculture and toward the service industry. Ladakh is currently trying to find a balance between the economic benefits of being a global destination and the preservation of its ecological and cultural integrity. The culture of Ladakh remains its most enduring legacy, a living testament to its Tibetan roots and Himalayan resilience. This is most visible in the ancient monasteries, or gompas, which are perched like eagles' nests on the tops of craggy hills. Inside these structures, the air is thick with the scent of juniper incense and the low hum of monks chanting ancient texts. These are not just museums of the past, but active centers of community life, where festivals and rituals still dictate the rhythm of the year. The coexistence of different faiths is a defining feature of Ladakhi life, particularly in the harmony between the Buddhist majority and the Islamic communities of the West. In towns like Leh and Kargil, you can hear the call to prayer from a mosque echoing at the same time as the blowing of a monastic conch shell. This cultural harmony is a rare and precious thing, born from a shared history of survival in a land that is unforgiving to everyone regardless of their creed. It is a reminder that in the face of nature's extremes, human cooperation is the only way forward. Life at these altitudes is a daily exercise in resilience, requiring a strength of spirit that is hard for outsiders to comprehend. At 10,000 feet and above, the simple act of breathing requires more effort, and the physical toll of labor is magnified. Farmers have only a few short months of summer to grow the barley and peas that will sustain them through the long, dark winters. There is no room for waste in this economy, where every scrap of resource is reused and every drop of water is accounted for. In the depths of winter, temperatures can plummet to below -30 degrees Celsius, turning the landscape into a silent world of ice. During these months, the mountain passes are often closed, cutting off the region from the rest of the world and forcing the people to rely on their stored supplies and their internal strength. Nomadic herders, known as the Changpa, continue to move their flocks of Pashmina goats across the frozen high-altitude plains of the Changtang. This is a life stripped down to its barest essentials, where the bond between humans and animals is the difference between life and death. Despite the barren appearance of the mountains, Ladakh is home to a surprising array of wildlife that has evolved to thrive in the cold. The most legendary inhabitant is the snow leopard, the ghost of the mountains, which roams the high ridges in search of prey. You might also spot the Himalayan blue sheep, or burrel, which move with incredible agility across near-vertical cliffs. This is a fragile ecosystem where survival is a constant battle, and every creature must be a master of camouflage and conservation. In 2019, Ladakh underwent another massive political shift when it was designated as a separate union territory of India. This move was intended to give the region more direct control over its development and a greater voice in national politics. However, it has also brought new anxieties about land rights, environmental protection, and the preservation of the local identity. The people of Ladakh are currently advocating for constitutional safeguards that will ensure their unique culture isn't swallowed by the rapid pace of modernization. The strategic importance of Ladakh remains as high as ever, with the eyes of the world often focused on the disputed borders with China and Pakistan. The high-altitude plains of Aksai Chin remain a source of tension, and the presence of thousands of troops on both sides is a reminder of the region's precarious position. It is a place where the past and the future collide, where ancient spiritual traditions exist in the shadow of modern fighter jets and surveillance technology. As development accelerates and the world becomes more connected, Ladakh stands at a profound crossroads. The road ahead is paved with the promise of better infrastructure and economic growth, but it is also fraught with the risk of losing the very things that make the region special. The question for the future is whether Ladakh can modernize without destroying its soul, and whether its people can maintain their resilience in a world that is changing faster than ever before. Ladakh is not just a destination for the adventurous or a square on a military map. It is a place where the history of human endurance is written in the stone of the mountains. It is a place that teaches us about the fragility of our environment and the strength of the human spirit when pushed to its limits. In the silence of its vast valleys, you can feel the weight of the centuries and the fleeting nature of our own existence. It is a land that humbles you, stripping away the noise of the modern world until all that is left is the sky and the earth. As we look at the story of Ladakh, we find a lesson for our own lives, the importance of resilience and the beauty of adaptation. This region shows us that even in the harshest conditions, life can flourish if it finds a way to work with nature rather than against it. It teaches us that our history and our traditions are the anchors that keep us steady when the winds of change blow the hardest. We must learn to value the silence in our own lives, just as the mountains of Ladakh hold the silence of the ages. Are we doing enough to protect the world's most fragile environments from the impact of our own desires? Can we find a way to balance our need for progress with the necessity of preserving the cultures that have survived for millennia? These are the questions that Ladakh asks of every traveler who crosses its high passes. The future of this land above the clouds is not just in the hands of its people, but in the choices we all make as a global community. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the history and heart of Ladakh. If this journey through the high-altitude desert has sparked your curiosity, please leave a comment below with your thoughts on this incredible region. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more explorations into the most remote and fascinating corners of our planet.